Hello again. Is it a war crime to take the skulls of your opponents and sew them into a cape? I don't know. Either way, I doubt Skulltaker cares. And today I've been sponsored by Creative Assembly to show you what he does and how he does it. What he does might be pretty obvious. He takes skulls. But how he does it? Well, no, that's actually pretty obvious too. He kills people and he just takes them. And then, like I said, he sews them into his cape. It's like your grandma knitting you up a blanket, but way more messed up. What this means for us in the video game is that he collects Champion's Essence from winning battles and uses it to unlock some rather powerful buffs. That's the plan anyway. Let's see how it goes. We start our campaign nestled in the bosom of the Lustrian Argonian maids, with some sacrificial Tzeentch weirdo just waiting to be killed. But first I want to check our victory conditions. Unsurprisingly, our two objectives are to take skulls and burn settlements to the ground. Well, let's get some skulls then. This dude to our immediate east is worth a mere 16 Champion's Essence, but you've got to start somewhere. And this battle will give me a chance to demonstrate my tactics for this campaign. Alright, so we're over here, and they're over there. So the plan is to run Skulltaker and all of his red buddies over there to turn them into paste. That is, honestly, without exaggeration, the full extent of my tactics for this campaign. And I think Khorne would approve. And you know what? It works really well. A horde of bloodletters do good work on most infantry, and their main goal is to keep everybody busy, whilst Scully does his job. I'm sure he's quite capable of chewing through hordes of units himself, but I'm treating him as kind of an assassin. In almost every battle of this campaign, he'll make a beeline for the nearest lord and remove their skeleton from their body. He's already pretty good at it, but oh boy, he's going to get much better. And frightfully quickly too. So there you go, we obviously won that battle, and our guy got 2 skill points which we'll invest in... maim, kill, destroy, or slaughter. Let's go with kill for now. That's mostly what we'll do in this campaign, fight battles. We have settlements and need to build things in them, but this is a much less impactful element of our campaign than most. What we will be doing a lot of is razing settlements to the ground, like this one here, Khorne, currently occupied by a few easily defeated cultists, and we have 2 options of what to yell about when we raze. Either we yell "Skulls for the Skull Throne" to collect a load of skulls, not the cape skulls, regular ones, we'll get to that, or we yell "Blood for the Blood God" to spend a load of skulls and spawn a blood host, which is basically a temporary army of angry red men to help continue a push into enemy territory. Anyway, I chose skulls on this particular occasion, which was maybe the wrong option, but there'll be plenty other opportunities, like down the road here's Chaqua. This time I decide we'll spend some skulls to occupy it because we need a foothold, but we only technically need to occupy 1 settlement per region on the map, because every turn there's a chance that an unoccupied ruin will just join up, drawn to the slaughter. But I figure it's probably wise to kickstart things early on by occupying more often than not. Anyway, Skulltaker has taken some skulls, so it's time to do some sewing. We've got many options for where to put our skulls, but we have to work our way up the Mark of Khorne to access some of the good stuff. My options for now are to either replenish some campaign movement after defeating a lord, or to increase the rate at which Skulltaker levels by stealing the experience of lords he kills. I think we'll go with that second one, because that's an effect that we'll benefit more from the sooner we take. The one that you start with, in case you're curious, grants a very handy ability that locks down an enemy lord and lowers their defences. It's good stuff. Now, a couple of turns in, we need to choose which direction to start conquering land. And just to our north, a load of French people are on a campaign to refill their stock of frog's legs, making steady progress from one lizard settlement to another. I think we should go and meet them. So we declare war on Alberic de Bordelot and run over to Zacatec for our first taste of human blood. Skulltaker spills plenty of it, and the settlement is ours. I want to fill the coffers a bit, so we'll just sack this settlement, and hey, what's this? Skulltaker got a sick new whip. Very nice. He'll ride his new whip directly up to Bregon to start what I believe the Americans call a takeover, driving directly into the French lines and doing donuts until the cops show up. Once he's done ripping about the place, we'll raise it for more skulls, and then immediately afterwards we can invoke the dark powers in an unholy manifestation to colonize it at level 2. Very good. We're having our skulls and eating them too. But whilst we've been having our fun up here, unsurprisingly, Alberic and his mate Leonie have been riding over to punish us. They're attacking us at Bregon, and auto-resolving is giving us a Pyrrhic victory. I'm sure we can do better than that though with our advanced tactics. Skulltaker, apply tactics to the enemy. Now, Alberic is on a flying horse, so he's just sitting up there watching his men get butchered, like the cuck he is. But that's no big deal. He's got to come down eventually, and there's a few wizards down here to keep Scully occupied in the meantime. When he eventually is forced to pop down, Alberic takes a few hits and then does a French. The rest of his army following shortly after. All of this fighting has taken Scully up to level 9, and he's got a shiny new mount. It seems kind of backwards that you get the sick-ass khorne motorbike first and then the Juggernaut, but they're actually sort of side grades. The Blood Red Harley is tankier, whereas the Jug gives more offensive stats, so that's interesting I guess. Now the two French lords are doing French things in two different directions, so we're free to roll back through their settlements. But the lizards to our south are sensing an opportunity and declare war. Okay. At this point we're just trading back and forth with the French, but Scully has a cunning plan. He's got Alberic cornered, hiding in Tlaxtlan. And sorry if there's any ancient Mayans watching this, but my tongue simply cannot maneuver quickly enough for that. Tlaxtlan. I don't know, man. Anyway, yes, that cunning plan. It's to auto-resolve a Pyrrhic victory in the siege battle here, and then use Alberic's skull to unlock Skulltaker's party trick. The ability to just straight up teleport to an enemy lord. We'll immediately use that to pay old Leonie a visit at Bregon, which she retook whilst we were busy, and then that's the Bordelot wiped out. Good stuff. Now we can give our focus to the lizards down south. Oh, never mind, the Dark Elves have declared war. The game thinks that they're much more powerful than us, but we'll see. Our boy Skulltaker is miles away after his little teleportation escapade, but we've got this Zal dude hanging out in our capital with a few units of bloodletters, defending from the violent perverts to the west. That'll probably do the trick. However, for probably fairly good reason, the people of this world do not like us, and the war declarations keep rolling in, with Marcus Wolfhart of the Hunts Marshal's expedition throwing in with the rest. He's immediately marching on... don't make me say it again. That place. Skulltaker makes it there first, and Marcus gets scared, running away and leaving his friend Rudy to the Red Horde. They are a pretty substantial force, so we'll have to apply some special tactics here, meaning we'll run our entire army directly into them and have Scully hunt down their lord. Because it turns out that even pretty substantial forces have a tendency to run away when their lord's skull is ripped out. This strategy works very well for someone of my skill level. I haven't mentioned it, but I've actually barely played Total Warhammer, and I'm absolutely terrible at managing a lot of units in a prolonged battle. Luckily for us, this strategy is only going to get better because after this fight, our boy is up to level 13, and even has a few shiny bits of kit now. Perhaps unexpectedly though, the Dark Elves are out here attacking from the south. Are they friends with the Lizard Men or something? I don't know, that doesn't seem right, but whatever the case, they sack Chaqua, which is a shame, but I'm gonna be real, I'm too busy with Marcus up here, and I haven't figured out how strong blood hosts are yet. Don't worry, I'll get there eventually. But it's time for Marcus to die now. We apply the usual strategy, and whilst the Horde of Red keeps his men busy, Skulltaker and his two friends on their Harleys go sicko mode, achieving the usual result. Which is victory, by the way. Okay, now let's get some revenge on those nasty pervs that have been running wild in our settlements. Scully's teleport is still on cooldown, but that's okay. He can go pretty fast, and they've made it pretty deep, so we meet in the middle. They've got a Hydra back here, and Rakarth himself is on some kind of flying horror, so you'll never guess what Skulltaker and the boys did. That's right, they ordered all of their troops to mob the nearest enemy, and then ran directly at Rakarth and his Hydra. I think Skulltaker should get extra skulls for this one. It's got a few of them, right? Then Rakarth gets punted off his mount like a little loser, and you know how the story goes. His army are already running away. Skulltaker is now level 19, making ridiculously quick progress through all of his stat increasing nodes to make him even more murdery than he already is. Now let's have a look at that very special cloak of ours. I see up in the top left a bonus here that replenishes all blood hosts when we defeat a lord. As far as I can tell, they're all pretty great buffs, but I want to work towards that one, because I'm finally starting to realise how strong blood hosts can be. Anyway, after we did that to Rakarth, the Blood Elves want... The Blood Elves? Well, the Warcraft. Don't say that. Shh. The Dark Elves want peace after we did Rakarth dirty, and I'm gonna give them peace, because I'm focused on the humans to the north and the lizards to the south. Clearly the surrounding factions are starting to realise the shit they're in, because we're getting a few non-aggression pacts coming through the letterbox. The Vampire Coast don't want any of what we're selling. Okay, anyway, let's get back to dumping on Marcus Wolfheart. These guys run a lot of ranged infantry and even have some artillery, so we'll have to think about our approach to this battle very carefully. Scully eventually makes it through the infantry and gets to work on Marcus, with the result being exactly what you'd expect. And this time I do what you've probably all been screaming at the screen for me to do this whole time, and summon a blood host. I also, after this battle, got a shedload of favour for completing missions, which is quite handy. And the other thing you might have been screaming about is building up my number of skulls sent to the Skull Throne. Don't worry, I'm on it. I've been using them to buff post-battle loot so far. Clearly I'm not used to having multiple armies to manage, so I send the blood host over towards the next target, the Monument of Izital, ahead of Skulltaker, and then, to my surprise, Ludwig here came out and attacked it. Close defeat, says the game. Let's see if we can't fight our way out of this situation with some special tactics. This, I don't know, I didn't expect this to work, but here we are. And with the way now cleared, Scully can swoop in and take the place. Since it's our first in this region, we'll occupy it as a foothold before moving deeper. But to throw a very brief spanner in the works, here is a pack of savage orcs. A small horde of them led by Grognok. We should probably just auto-resolve this one, but it'll be good to watch them die. I mean, get footage of the combat. That sounded a lot darker than I expected it to. This khorne guy is clearly having an influence on my psyche. But, you know, Skulltaker sure did pop that dude's head off, you really can't argue with that. We're not too far off from finishing these hunt dudes now, and I can see Grand Cathay on the horizon. They're probably next in line if I had to guess. Whilst working on this push though, I have also been running around a Blood Reaper named Korath, trying to train him up to be a master assassin, and I'm gonna be honest, he's not very good at it. I think that followers of khorne maybe do their best work on the battlefield. 3 times now he's failed to assassinate some random dude, and soon enough I'll just bundle him into Skulltaker's army because, to be honest, a good Blood Reaper is worth 2 or 3 normal units in combat. Just before we finish off the last of the hunt, surprise surprise, Yuan Bo declares war. And they have a really good route directly to our homeland. But they probably won't take that route because AI. So after we murder a load of diplomats in the name of khorne for a neat 10,000 favour, we'll go finish off the last of the hunt over at the Temple of Kara and use their skulls to summon another blood host, because Cathay have quite a substantial military. They do, however, let us march directly into their settlement of Floating Pyramid and stomp it. Their armies are all down this coast here, so I figure instead of running at them and having to come back up here for the settlements, I'll just start to work on them and assume that they'll run up here to defend. So I'll hire a load of new regiments of renown into Scully's army since we've been unlocking them so far, and siege the Isle of the Crimson Skull, since it seems like the kind of place that we should probably own. Siege battles are a little bit more complex and will require us to put in some tactical work here. Instead of simply right-clicking a load of enemy units, we first have to right-click a load of walls, bringing in our siege towers and assaulting the gates with our heroes. Then once our armies have scaled the walls and the gates are open, we can proceed as usual. I raised the Isle of the Crimson Skull for another blood host, because now I have to chase around a load of Cathay armies. Zhu Ding is being a real pain in the ass and took back our flying pyramid, whilst Skulltaker goes and ends Yishi's suffering out on the waters, leveling up to 30 in the process and unlocking a shiny Bloodthirster demon. But now I do have that problem I mentioned earlier where I'm bad at the video game, and keep leaving my blood hosts lonely and ripe for the taking. So Zhu Ding is attacking the Red Harvesters here because I left them standing outside the pyramid like an idiot. I'll fight the battle because auto-resolving for a defeat feels like weakness. And to be fair, we do have this thing, straight out of the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. So with that and some complex tactics, we just might have a chance here. This combat started as a bit of a grind, which I don't think was working, so I figured it was time to send my big boys to confront their giant statue, Satang the Watcher. He's pretty neat, but he was annihilating all of my infantry, so this had to be done. With Satan the wheat-based protein locked up in melee, our red horde is able to grind down all of their dudes, and they start to run, at which moment Satang also falls over in a very satisfying manner. Nice. That'll teach them to attack my foolishly undefended blood hosts. The rats show up at our door now, with their little newsboy caps in hand, asking for a non-aggression pact. And you know what? I like these guys. They seem like good, trustworthy allies, so, okay, we won't kill you. But back to the matter at hand. Running it back on the Grand Cathay, taking out the incredibly annoying Zhu Ding and taking Spectre Zuma, and instead of retaking the pyramid, we'll use it to spawn another blood host to run north with, whilst Skulltaker finishes business down here. Killing Yuan Bo gives us enough hero's essence to finally take that skull which replenishes blood hosts. That's the good stuff. It's only 10% right now, but hey, it's something. And I've also been taking techs to improve our hosts. The Pillar of War here contains a number of techs which add some nice and shiny units to freshly summoned blood hosts. Alright, the war with Grand Cathay is essentially done, so I'll start to let the hosts die off and turn my attention to a quest battle that's been available for quite some time now. If I go and kill some dwarf lords, I'll get a Slayer Sword, which is something I absolutely dreamed about having as a kid, but you see what they don't tell you is that to win a golden demon, you actually have to finish painting anything, which I'm really not very good at. Anyway, apparently I could just auto-resolve it for a Pyrrhic victory, but that'd be a pretty wild thing to do, so we'll play it out. These three short, fat dudes are gonna stand over here and watch us fight all of their friends. At least that's the basic concept anyway. This is going to be a long battle, and as I've said, I'm terrible at managing those. We've got two groups of dwarves to turn into mush first, and then we can run at the three lords. It's as simple as that, right? No, of course it's not. As soon as you get close, additional reinforcements arrive. But it's a little bit too late, because Skulltaker and his friends are already mashing up the dwarf lords. Victory was inevitable. It's a Pyrrhic victory, so I didn't do any better than the auto-resolve, but, you know, I had fun doing it. And Scully is now level 38, and he's got his shiny sword, which pushes him over 1000 weapon strength. Very good. Right, we're done up north now, but the lizards down south are marching on Chakwa. Whatever will we do? Oh right, yeah, we'll just teleport down there and punish them for their transgressions. His army is a little ragged from that quest battle and generally campaigning, and the lizards are starting to get some big scary dinosaurs by now, meaning this battle took a little while to get done and wasn't without losses. But in the end, the result is always the same. Skulltaker and his mates chasing down an enemy lord whilst victory appears on screen. In the north, the last of the Jade Courts are wiped away by our blood hosts, and we can focus on one front for a moment. Never mind. There's lizards up here too, and they want in on the fighting. Well, fine. There's no point walking all the way back up north, so we'll just fight down here until we can teleport back up there to deal with this new threat. Quite a few of the battles down here take place in forests and as such are pretty hard to show you. But that doesn't change the outcomes at all, just the visuals. From our battle at Itza, we've now killed enough enemies with a specific kind of unit to spawn this angry red gorilla named Scylla and Fingrim. He's pretty neat and will immediately join Scully's horde of murderers. It's time for a cloak update. Here's how it currently looks. We're just picking up the empowerment that grants +1 bonus versus infantry per empowered skull. Big Mazda Mundi has shown his big froggy face up north, and to be honest, there's not much I'm going to be able to do about that for a while. He'll just run riot up here whilst we're busy. The defense of Hexoatl was valiant, but an inevitable fail. On the bright side, we've finished the Pillar of War researches, meaning our blood hosts will come with a load of new shinies now, including a Bloodthirster. Anyway, onwards to Axlotl, where we'll see our new monkey man on the field for the first time. And wait, what's that? Huh. He's got a tail mouth. Well, good for him, I guess. I don't want to know what he does with that in his spare time. Again, the lizards are getting some pretty handy units by this point. Sometimes they'll have a lot of pterodons that bombard us from on high. But you really just can't argue with Skulltaker, it seems. If you have a head, he will remove it. And your army really won't like that. And so it is, we continue our campaign in the south, and Mazda RX-7 continues his in the north. That's okay, Skulltaker will be there soon. And with the settlement of Jotl taken, we've achieved a short campaign victory. The goal of which was to raise or occupy 30 settlements and empower a few skulls in the cloak. We get a chainsword for it, which is really best suited for an infantry slaughterer, as it gains an absolutely massive weapon damage buff based on the number of kills the wielder has. So for that reason we'll give it to Brasstide the Blood Reaper, and make him our dedicated infantry cleaver. Right, teleportation is back on the menu. So we'll leave a couple of blood hosts down here to hold the fort, and go get this rotary-engined arsehole who's currently playing at his residence in Spectre Zuma. Whilst we build the siege camp there, I have to fend off the lizards twice down south with my poor reeling blood host. One of those battles was fought almost entirely in tactical view because those damn skinks just love the jungle so much. But whatever it looked like and how Pyrrhic it was, victory is victory. So now we can get back to what matters. Blowing Mazda Mundi's gigantic lizard back doors in. We've got some towers and a ram, so it doesn't take long to mount the walls and get our big boys through the gate. Right into the man himself. And I mean, damn, he is really big. But he's also really dead. Not exactly made for melee combat after all. The rest of the battle is simple enough. Just chasing down a load of lizards until we eventually win. Good stuff. This battle pushes Scully up to the ripe old level of 50, and I spend my last few skill points on a few of the army buffs because at this point that's sort of all he has left. Now, the rats of Clan Spittle want a defensive alliance, and I'm on board with that. These guys have been great so far, and they're even giving me a whopping 400 tribute for it. What a deal! This means we can make an outpost in one of their settlements, giving them a small garrison of khorne units and giving us access to some global rat recruitment. That's very nice, we'll do some of that later, but for now we've just got to keep cleaning up Mazda's mess in the north before we can head back south, where we've just joined our rat friends in a war with even more lizards. There's about 3 billion separate factions of them hiding down there in Lustria, it seems. One by one, Mazda's settlements fall until we eventually make it to Hexuatl, the capital, which has a sack value of 30k. It's hard to resist that, especially when I can just occupy it immediately afterwards. Yes, it damages the settlement, but 30k is 30k. As khorne, you don't really have much traditional income. You just keep yourself afloat by stealing from people in battle. That may not be true if you're good at the game, but that's how things have been going for me, and I'm having a great time. Clan Pestilence have obviously been talking to Clan Spittle, and offer us a mighty 600 favour for a defensive alliance, and as I've found out so far, these guys are entirely trustworthy friends to have. So I'm in. In order to finish off the Northern Lizards, I did have to kill Mazda a second time, which wasn't too hard, and now we've killed enough enemies with Skull Reapers and Wrathmongers that we've spawned a very large angry man named Scar Bloodwrath. He's a berserker, which is fun, and just like all of the others, he'll join Scully's horde of angry red men. Alright, we can go back south now anyway, where we now have a full-on military alliance with Clan Spittle, not just defensive anymore. And yes, by the way, I am aware that these alliances are massively balanced in the rats' favour, and I'm totally okay with that. Because a friend in need is a friend indeed, but a friend with Warpstone is better. And in case you've been wondering what research we've been doing all this time, we've just finished off the last tech in the Pillar of Wrath, which both empowers and reduces the cooldowns for Skull Throne rituals, meaning we can more quickly build up our total number of skulls sacrificed to access the better rituals. I'm mainly interested in the 2 rituals that cost 4,000 skulls that either fully replenish Skulltaker's army or campaign movement. Both of these seem incredibly handy. So with that in mind, we'll keep spamming rituals as soon as they're off cooldown, since we're hardly short on skulls. I'm also taking another look at the Skull Cloak now and realising that perhaps the most useful empowerment would be the one that halves his teleport cooldown, since that ability is incredibly useful in both an offensive and defensive capacity. But then again, this one here fully replenishes Scully's army after defeating a lord, which is also absolutely absurd, so I can't resist, even though I might never earn enough Hero's Essence to unlock it. The lower levels of it are also good, to be fair, granting a chance for lost Demons of Khorne units to be restored after a battle. I've had to do almost zero recruitment in this campaign, and frankly I'd like to keep it that way. Alright, now that we've just about finished off the lizards here, the much stronger Dark Elves to our north offer us a non-aggression pact, and I'm happy to take it because it means we can relatively safely focus our efforts down south, where we've just been pulled into another war with yet another sect of the lizard people by our ratty allies. The vampires of Luther Harkon have also been offering us pacts for basically the entire campaign now, and I've said no every single time, because unlike rats, they're entirely untrustworthy, and also because I want their land. And we can just go take it. Once we've killed Mazdamundi for a third time because he just kept coming back for more. Alright, it's teleporting time. I had left Lord Skulltaker alone in the sacred pools here for a very long time, but now he's gotta go. And he was also a very convenient teleport target to get Skulltaker back down south. The usual tactics are applied, and though Skulltaker himself was being slippery and doing his best to avoid a fight with Scully, eventually I managed to lock him down and knock him off his floating chair in 4 hits, at which point his army runs away. Very good. From here we can go to Quetzal, which was taken from us at some point, and use it as an opportunity to spawn a fat blood host, filled to the brim with angry red demons. The vampires are understandably watching this and getting even more desperate for a pact that's never going to happen. And as we arrive at their borders, I briefly debate the intelligence of starting a double-fronted war, but quite quickly come to the conclusion that I don't care. Blood must be spilled on the cornflakes, and I don't care from whence it flows. And I expect the vampires will have quite a lot of it. We'll immediately take the Awakening, which is a weird name for a settlement, and then we'll raise it for about 15,000 favour and a fat 38,000 skulls. That is a lot of skulls. Between turns, Luther himself comes out to fight Skulltaker, which is a very, very silly thing to do, but I appreciate it. Our ratapults get to work on them whilst the red boys run across the field towards the horde of zombies with cannons? Huh. Jesus, those cannons do a lot of damage. By the time everyone makes it to the enemy, they're pretty ragged. But a ragged, angry red man is still much stronger in melee combat than a zombie. And Skulltaker is also much stronger than Luther Harkon, obviously. So the outcome is inevitable. Not great, but inevitable. Similarly inevitable is our advance through the rest of the vampire settlements. One by one they go down to Skulltaker and his hosts, at which point we've conquered 60 settlements. Enough to satisfy the long campaign victory condition. So now we just need to empower that cloak a little more. In other words, we need to kill a few more lizards. Which means eliminating Itza. And in case you don't know what that is, it's a lizard faction. Get it? Okay, sorry, but here we are. 1 or 2 more lizard armies later, we filled out enough of the cloak to have achieved a long campaign victory. Lustria belongs to Khorne. And 2 clans of rats, I guess. And that's going to do it for me. I'm happy with what I've achieved and I don't feel like I need to do any more. I've been asked to play Total Warhammer 3 on the channel for well over a year now, basically ever since Reggie blew up, and I finally did it because they paid me to. Did you like it? I liked it. Should I do more? Let me know. If you want to do this yourself, use my link below to go have a look at the DLC. Anyway, whatever you do, please remain indoors. Skulltaker is, has always, and will always be out there. Until next time, goodbye.